Joseph Stalin, the formidable leader of the Soviet Union from 1924 until his demise in 1953, played a commanding role in guiding the Red Army and governing the nation through the tumultuous period of World War II. Celebrating the ultimate victory over Nazism and Adolf Hitler, Stalin's grip on power seemed resolute. However, obscured by the annals of history, lies a lesser-known tale, one that reveals the tragic fate of his own flesh and blood, his son, Yakov Dugashvili. Born on a March day in 1907 to Kato Svanas and Joseph Shugashvili, who would later be known as Joseph Stalin, Yakov entered the world with a nickname bestowed by his father, Patsana. But the early joy in his life quickly turned to sorrow when, a few months after his birth, his father became entangled in a bank robbery affair, forcing the family to seek refuge in Baku to evade the clutches of the law. Sadly, their trials did not end there. Yakov's mother fell victim to typhus on December 5, 1907, leaving him and his father separated. For the next 14 years, Yakov was raised by his aunts, feeling the absence of his distant father. Their paths converged once again when Yakov moved to Moscow to live with his father. However, any hopes of a loving reunion were dashed as Stalin kept his son at arm's length, even forbidding him from assuming the family name. Despite the strained relationship, Yakov showed promise, graduating from the Institute of Transport and working as an engineer in an electric plant factory. But it was his enrollment in the Artillery Academy in 1937 that foreshadowed the heartrending events to come. The rift between Yakov and his father had been deepening over time, with Yakov's attempt to marry a priest's daughter named Zoya being flatly rejected. The ensuing heartbreak pushed Yakov to the edge, leading him to attempt suicide, an act he narrowly survived. Despite a few romantic relationships, Yakov's life was overshadowed by the shadow of his father's towering figure. As the clouds of war gathered over Europe, it became evident that Adolf Hitler's insatiable ambitions would soon target the Soviet Union. The Nazis perceived the Soviets as their arch-nemesis, the bastion of communism to be obliterated. In June 1941, Operation Barbarossa unleashed the full fury of the German war machine upon the Soviet Union, catching Stalin and his regime off guard. In the midst of this chaos, Stalin found himself facing a haunting dilemma: the fate of his son, Yakov. Determined to prove himself, Yakov was positioned as a lieutenant in the 14th Howitzer Regiment of the 14th Tank Division, at the front lines. However, fate had its way, and within a month of the Nazi invasion, Yakov was captured during the Battle of Smolensk. It remains unclear whether he was betrayed by Soviet forces or chose to surrender voluntarily, but the consequences of his capture reverberated far and wide. For the Germans, Yakov's imprisonment was an invaluable propaganda tool. They publicized the capture of the son of Stalin, reveling in the shock and outrage it caused within the Soviet ranks. Stalin himself, however, viewed his son's capture as a disgrace and was infuriated by the circumstances. He issued a decree, vehemently urging his soldiers never to surrender and to fight to the death. That his own son had failed to adhere to this directive was a source of deep shame for the Soviet leader. As the propaganda machinery churned, Yakov's image was plastered on leaflets dropped over Soviet soldiers, alongside messages that showcased him smiling with the enemy. These messages aimed to demonstrate the supposed comfort of his captivity. To counter the German propaganda, the Soviets even awarded Yakov the Order of the Red Banner for his purported actions in battle. But despite the propaganda storm, Yakov's fate was sealed. He was transported to Berlin and subsequently to the Sachsenhausen concentration camp. Stalin was presented with an opportunity to exchange his son for General Paulus, a prized asset for the Germans. However, Stalin's pride and political maneuvering prevailed over paternal love, and he refused the exchange, effectively signing Yakov's death warrant. Within the harrowing confines of the concentration camp, Yakov's situation took a darker turn. His treatment deteriorated, and he met his end on December 14, 1941. The circumstances surrounding his death remain shrouded in controversy. Some accounts claim that Yakov took his own life, running into an electric fence that surrounded the camp, while others contend that he was executed by the Germans after Stalin rejected the exchange offer. The life of Yakov Dugashvili was one overshadowed by neglect, abandoned to the whims of his father's iron rule, and bound by the callousness of war. The tragic tale of Yakov serves as a somber reminder of the consequences of wielding absolute power and the cost of neglecting those closest to us. His story echoes through history, illuminating the dark recesses of human choices and the enduring impact they leave on the lives of those entangled in the web of power and politics.